Uh, and yeah. First of all, I think this solidarity and mutual aid is parallel to each other, and it means a united labor against a difficulty. So to help each other solving problems, work together. This means solidarity. It's not the same thing with charity. It's different from charity. Because solidarity doesn't aim giving help from rich to poor. It is a collective effort. You don't just give or take from solidarity or organization. You should do both, give and take from it. Charity, I think it's a bad thing. Charity naturally doesn't have problem with inequality. On the contrary, it legitimizes inequality and exploitation. So when we look at the other side of it, on the other hand, mutual aid and solidarity stands against exploitation. With this characteristic, it is a naturally progressive and politic act and organization. I think solidarity and mutual aid is that.
Thank you so much. It's a great definition and clarification. And would you like to add on this, please, a little, or would you like to share what do you think about this concept?
I think mutual aid is more than just reciprocity. It contains a collective good. So beyond just helping each other, you think in terms of collective good. So that's what I can add to Yusuf.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. Would you please, Yusuf, elaborate on the distinction between charity versus solidarity or mutual aid? Because it's sometimes hard to grasp it in its totality. So would you please give us a little bit of elaboration on the distinction between charity versus solidarity or mutual aid? What is the difference?
Yeah, I'd like to express it, but how can I give a example for it? I think our works is example for solidarity, but not the charity. In the beginning of COVID-19 pandemic, there were a lot of solidarity campaigns in the name of solidarity campaigns with aim to take from rich and give to poor people who need the supplies, and see the rich one as a hero, or see the politic one, the governor as a hero to rich people. But I think this is like a bullshit if I talk openly, because we live that difficulties because of this exploitative system, and they are the owner of the exploitative system. But when they give something that they didn't need it, they just escape from the responsibility of exploitation and responsibility of difficulties. So I think the united labor of people, the united labor of workers, poor, to solve the problem is different from taking from rich and just trying to survive. Solidarity is an act to solve the problem and make life livable. So it must be politic. It must be. It must ask question to the system against the humiliation. So it's not similar to charity.
Sure. And we can elaborate further on your experiences and how people react to your organization and what were the challenges. So maybe I could ask another question and you could tell us more about the historical context and how did you first organize at the beginning of the COVID pandemic? You mentioned slightly, but could you please tell us more?
Okay. I'd like to begin with. I'd like to begin from the book. As Fatih Solidarity Network mentioned in the book, with these sentences, we have a history which goes back to the 2013 Gezi Park rebellion. Since then, we have come together in neighborhood councils to discuss politics, including issues that pertain to our neighborhood and present our response. So there is a historic background of solidarity networks. I'd like to mention it if possible. I think there are three stages of local organization, neighborhood councils, or solidarity networks in Turkey. And solidarity networks is the final version of it. So you can find a similar mention from Ayvalık district's network sentences, which shown as, let me look at it. I'm sorry, I'm trying to find it. Ayvalık local initiative formed on January 5, 2019 after the forum. What kind of a local organization or administration do we want, and how can we organize it? By invitation from Ayvalık Democracy Platform. So we have a historical background in these works. As a part of Fatih Solidarity Network mentioned it, the first was after the revolt of 2013 with Gezi resistance. Maybe you heard about it. So it was our reflection to 2008 crisis in a region. Gezi resistance exploded in 2013 and it spread to whole country. Gezi has first to protect the park in Istanbul, in the center of Istanbul, Taksim Square, the Gezi Park, to protect it. And after the first enthusiastic weeks, we start to talk about the path of the resistance. So we organized forums at Gezi Park. Forums was like local councils, but it was the first seed. So after we organized the first forum in Gezi Park, it spread to a whole country. Tens of forums at parks of districts were organized. To understand the example, in Istanbul there were forum in nearly, I think in every district we organized forums, and thousands of people were at the central ones. Thousands of people got around and talked about the path and discussed and offers or accept the suggestions and act. So we were arguing about the issues, but because of that was our first try, after years and years, it wasn't organized enough. We were arguing on simple issues like, how can I say, protest a media corporation or any other act, things like it. So we weren't talking about more complex issues. In fact, I'm sorry. Actually, resistance committees and neighborhood councils has used last century, especially the second half of last century. We used them in our history, but after years and years, we haven't used neighborhood committees or resistance committees, local councils. That was the first seat, so it was hard to organize. So with forums, social memory till then wasn't so fresh, but with forums, I think we remembered it. But working in forums for months made us to learn from the process. But later, naturally, the process got slower month by month, and forums specified and damped off. I think the key sentence with that process is that we should change our fate by our own hands. So it was our motivation. After a few years in 2000 and I think 17, we faced with a constitutional referendum and election. Then we tried to organize no councils to to work against the election. No councils were a bit more organized, but less crowded. It has more ability to mobilize itself and the activists, but it was less crowded. But again, it spread to lots of districts and made a successful campaign against the reforms. And I think the last stage of these councils and local organization is the solidarity networks. We've been, I think, living this same thing as a forum or no councils. We have learned that capitalist state is not able to solve any of our problems. So this knowledge made the people, the masses, to act the same reflexes and organize in local councils. Finally, if we came to the solidarity networks, the working people of Turkey and the poor were promised social benefits in the beginning of a pandemic, and they promised to support. They were promised to support, but had just traditional cologne to kill the germs. So they didn't take any support from the government. So when we faced it, we read this. That people being left alone and they should struggle with the pandemic and on by themselves. So we felt that again we are alone in against this pandemic, and we should organize ourselves. And we tried to discuss on it and try to organize local councils again. I mean, who were we? We knew each other from various democratic mass organizations, workers' unions, collectives, political groups, and especially, revolutionary left organizations. I mean, we all had a dream before the pandemic, or now we had a dream on another world, a different world. So it wasn't so difficult to organize again. We began to organize solidarity networks in this path. By the way, I don't mean that we were already crowded enough. As an example, I was a member of Beşiktaş Solidarity Network. After announcement, Kadıköy Solidarity Network, we announced Beşiktaş Solidarity Network with a total number of 6 or 7 friends. we call all the people to organize with 6 or 7 friends. I didn't remember actually the total number, but I think 6. So we are neighbor district to Kadıköy. So we learned fast from them, and we first created a private Facebook group and invited people that we know and trust them, prepared posters and shared phone numbers on it, and just wrote on it that we are ready to help each other, especially 65 plus neighbors. So it started to grow. Our number grew very fast. To understand the process, I think Kadıköy Solidarity Networks shared its experiences with Çankırı Hospital. It is written in the book. Where was it? So there is an example like it. I want to express the process that time. It is written that as we were the first among the solidarity networks which got organized pretty fast right after the outbreak, we became widely known. We have been receiving calls from many districts and provinces. We received a call from Çankırı State Hospital. This province is nearly 500 kilometers away from Istanbul. Doctors which is working in that hospital requested face shields, so we sent shields, and our friends who make shields wrote notes on the boxes. We love you so much, we can't be without you. I think it's a good example to explain the process. So how can I continue? Then we created applications for people to be volunteers, organized weekly online or less face-to-face meetings. In these meetings, we talk about what we need, experiences and suggestions. Volunteers ask their neighbors what they need or in their building or street or neighborhood. In the beginning, many of people didn't trust us. They didn't believe that this solidarity was real, if that is a cheating or something. But later they started to call us to ask for their needs or offer to give. Network started to work on from basic supplies to health or legal assistance. We tried so hard to make people trust the solidarity. So when people understood and started to call us, they understood that we are trying to help them and we are trying to build a solidarity. Some of them wanted to help them to pay their bills or to get medicines for the pets. Many of them needed the legal assistance. I think it's a weird. It was a weird situation because everything was closed, but you should go to judiciary. You should defense yourself, but anyone couldn't help you. So we organized working groups with professionals on the issues. A lot of legal, health professionals, psychologists, teachers got included to the network. Especially in the beginning of pandemic, network made a lot of mutual aid works and grew crowded with its working groups. I think it's a basic summary, but after normalization is a different thing.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, because now we know about a little bit of Gezi Park protests, like how it started many years ago, how people started to criticize the politics and policies of the government, neoliberalism and everything. And it started as an environmental justice activism and a movement around it. And then we now know that how people started to build trust again among themselves. Like, it's a very important thing. People didn't trust you at the beginning, right? And then they started to build that rapport, and they started to call you and ask for even legal help. And I think maybe people were fired at that time, like mass firings, and people were laid off. And it was also questions about unemployment, right? People were getting help about those things as well. And I think we also discussed at the beginning, when I was reaching out to you and I was following you on social media, that women also needed help because of the lockdowns. Domestic abuse increased, and patriarchal states always like protected those abusers, and they were seeking help, legal help. And then solidarity networks and people who are members of solidarity networks have been trying to help out women as well, as far as I can tell from distance. But now I'd like to also listen from Beliz, can you please tell us more about how did you first organize? Like, could you please tell us more about student networks and how did you organize and how it started and how it evolved and how it has been transformed maybe? Thank you.
I think Shema was asking Beliz. Beliz, did you catch?
I couldn't. Yeah.
Sorry, I missed the question. I was looking at something else.
Sure. So I just wanted to, if you could tell us more about how did you first organize at the beginning and how it has evolved and how it has changed and how we can learn from your experience.
I don't know if you have, if you used to have solidarities in the United States, but here in Turkey we had women's solidarities, university student solidarities. They weren't very useful before the COVID, more like networks, and not really a network of mutual aid, but rather just announcing each other the news and the events taking place. But during the COVID, the situation for students was getting a bit rough, as both the economic crisis and the university education has been really dropped like a bomb on us. And on top of everything, we had an age restriction on going to streets. People under the age of 20 couldn't leave their houses. There was a large fee for leaving the house. So imagine it like this. You're a university student, you work somewhere part-time, and then they announce after this weekend, you can't leave your house. Your lectures will be online from Zoom. Most of the colleges couldn't adapt to online education for months. So educations were delayed by months at the time. And at top of that, we really struggled economically. We were in social isolation, and most of the students couldn't work from homes, their houses. At that very moment, we started forming what we call, I wrote the English translation somewhere, but let me see, voluntary students at neighborhood solidarity, which is basically an archetype of what will later turn into neighborhood solidarities. We first called for university students all around Turkey to form and find each other and form solidarities that will help the workers and women around neighborhoods reach them out and ask them what they need, actually. We try to organize on the needs of the society, the locals we were, at the locals we lived. Let me see. Yeah, we aimed that the solidarities would work without us, actually. We were hoping to go to neighborhoods and organize something that we would be a bridge to. We wanted to be a bridge to those who have kaynak,
Resources, maybe.
yeah, resources to help, and we would ask people, what do you have to offer? We know there are needs to this, and at some point, every door we rang opened up with a new opportunity. People were saying, well, I think this neighbor needs this, and okay, let me go back. At the beginning, we had some very basic things to achieve before us. For the health professions mostly, we made masks and very basic besin temel gıda.
Basic food, access to food. Mhm.
That was a problem. The workers in Turkey were either forced to work for half the price or they were laid off. There was, as you said, mass layoffs, and the government literally supported for this. So we were on our own, and there was many problems. So we started off with things that are relatively easy, like helping health professionals with masks, as Yusuf told. But with time, this created a spirit of solidarity in neighborhoods, and after some time, the local solidarities were formed in neighborhoods. So voluntary students at neighborhoods was not necessary anymore. But later on, at January 2021, a dean was appointed to our university, Boğaziçi University, which is kind of a liberal university. In every big thing, every big social movement in Turkey has some university going forward, and Boğaziçi has been known for some time now for not getting into any of them. And usually the students tend to be more interested with their careers and careers only. But this January, when a very political dean was appointed to Boğaziçi University, this news gathered great backlash on social media the first day. And just 2 days later, there was a call from Boğaziçi Solidarity, which is a student solidarity that was formed actually before the pandemic. But as I said, it was more of a networking place. And later, with the Boğaziçi resistance, gained its true meaning. Boğaziçi Solidarity called for a protest at the gates of the campus, and none of us were really expecting it, but we were thousands. I think 4,000 students from all around Istanbul were at the gates of Boğaziçi University, and there stood police before us. And I don't think everyone there was there for to protest the appointed dean that day, but we were so full with everything that's been going on lately. We were in the middle of the pandemics, and honestly, in Turkey, the online lectures were more like certificate programs. Not really, education kind of lost the meaning, and it came to be that you're just here to get a job. So, and we were really losing touch with everything that we were hoping to see in the future. And I think that was a great impact on the explosion of Boğaziçi resistance. After that, there was a great pressure from government on students. I think there were 50-something arrests, not arrests, 50-something was taken in custody the next day, and we kept on with protests, but the anger we had quickly turned into a productive amazement of what we are capable of when we were together. The very next day, we were looking for ways to come together and what we can do. We actually met with student women organizations, LGBT plus organizations, workers, and political parties in just days. Let me see. In the first month of the resistance, there was 26 student solidarities all across the country, which is a great development in Turkey, because student movement gives us room to actually discuss our daily academic and political issues with each other. This is, I think, very important in the sense that unlike charity, as Yusuf explained, in solidarity, you're actively participating and discussing it discussing it with your collective. What do you need, and how are you going to karşılamak this? How are you going to get these needs? So we solve issues together. Oh, thank you. How are you going to cover these needs? And students have a very wide range of needs. We see this in Boğaziçi as we also opposed to cafeteria prices, and we also protested about the attacks on the political party HDP. As I said, Boğaziçi was known to be a rather liberal school, but when last year HDP was attacked, it's kind of known for, it's a known Kurdish attack, actually. They attacked the people of Kurds. And there was, I think, 100 people from Boğaziçi University, which wouldn't have been there if they didn't have participated in the solidarity of Boğaziçi. So it's really opened up a way for us to discuss and solve the political issues, not only political, but solve our issues with each other. Let me see if I have anything else to say about Boğaziçi here. Yeah. Okay. After 1 year, Boğaziçi resistance, with all the student bodies in the solidarity, is still fighting for free education, and it ended up clearing the way for different struggles, actually. At the beginning of this academic year, after 3 semesters, the universities in Turkey went back to face-to-face education, but we faced many problems, much more than when we left off, because in not just as in we are having a hard time adapting face-to-face education. But as in, everything has changed. The universities have changed, the neighborhoods have changed. In my neighborhood, there was a price raise of 290%. And there became a housing problem, which first showed itself in social media. I think it took 3 or 4 days for us to take it to the streets. And I need to say 3 to 4 days is a very quick reaction. And we were very organized in taking it to streets. We formed a platform called Weekend Shelter, which is just meeting at the bare minimum. We all have a problem with housing, and we are going to work the solution together. So we called everyone to the parks around Turkey, and I think it went on for a month. We slept on parks saying weekend shelter, and this is a problem of the community. So we are here on a communal space. Let me see. This went on for a month with hundreds of students getting together every night. At one point, hundreds of students were taken into custody every day, and they went back to the parks after they get out of the custody. So we were showing how resistant we are in our demands, and I think this is a problem of this is not a problem of pandemics. This is a problem of capitalism. I mean, we are claiming for shelter. We are protesting to have a place to sleep. So we sleep on parks. And so the state has a memory, as Yusuf told, like Gezi Park. So they are trying to attack students who are sleeping in the park because they have nowhere to sleep. So the movements grow very fastly, like a snowball effect. And just in a few months, the Weekend Shelter organization declared itself to be an assembly because the housing problem still goes on. It doesn't seem to be solving itself unless we solve itself. So we are looking for ways of how to solve it, and our organization skills are getting better, and our organizations are getting bigger with each day because now we have the experience of pandemic solidarities, and now we have the university solidarities. We as the students are getting together with every opportunity we have, with every demand we have. We are finding a solution that we can all work out together. I just finally want to talk about a protest that happened, I think 3 weeks ago. A med student, Enes Kara, committed suicide, leaving behind a video where he talks about how his family forced him to stay at a religious dorm, and he couldn't leave there because of economic troubles. He didn't have the economic opportunities to stay anywhere else. And he talks very openly about how he also doesn't want his family to be disappointed in him. And this is an issue in Turkey. Most of the dormitories in Turkey are run by religious groups or private organizations. So together with the Weekend Shelter organization, now Weekend Shelter Assembly, we had a protest at Taksim, which we talked about how we want to live, and we want to live humanely, not in the bare minimum. So later on, all the university solidarities came together with university clubs and revolutionary organizations and some university gatherings in general to sign a bildiri.
Petition.
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 Yeah, petition calling for all the dormitories to be run by governments and to be free. And the movement is ever growing. And I think more and more people are now finding themselves place to come with problems and solve it together. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's been amazing. And you showed us how all these movements trigger and interact and then transform people, individuals, and we can claim agency collectively, right? And I am very thankful about the current updates and how students have been organizing all around Turkey and supporting each other and raising voicing their problems and housing issues and how different structures of oppression work in Turkey, but how we can claim agency and how we can resist and how we can show our persistence and perseverance. And I think that's a very great example and a living example, lived experience. And we can relate to that here. And because people and students organize to for student loans in here, as far as I can tell. So there are some different similarities and analogies, and also how your speech and your presentation gives us hope, right? And you told us that it's possible to be able to claim and to reflect on our problems. And this could also take us to the notion of democracy, right? How we can relate to each other. And I believe that Professor Shin will elaborate on the notion of democracy and participation and social moments further. And but learning more about the experiences of our peers maybe is very helpful in terms of hope inspiring and claiming agency. And thank you so much, Feliz. So maybe we can, and you both elaborated clearly how it first started and then how it has changed, how it evolved, how those movements and solidarity networks started as an out of mere necessity to access to food. I mean, reflections on lockdowns, how they were restricted, what you were finding a path for yourselves to be able to come together and to resist. And also you told us what you are doing right now, right? You're organizing with other students to resist those oppressions of the government, which appointed a rector to one of the most prestigious universities in Turkey, and how people, maybe how the students of that university were more non-confrontational before, and you said more careerist, but became aware of the problems around them, and then they encouraged each other. So women's groups, LGBTQI+ groups came together to share their experiences and supported each other, right? So these interactions are super important in this context. And also I thank you very much, Yusuf, that you told us how it started and how it evolved right now and how you still keep going, right? So maybe we can now talk a little bit of about, if you could share with us, what are some ways we can deepen and strengthen our networks of solidarity and mutual aid, and through and beyond crisis? I would like to, this could be the last part of our presentations, and then we can pass to the question and answer section, if it's possible, Professor Shin. I don't know how it sounds. Okay, thank you so much. So maybe could you please tell us how we can deepen and strengthen our networks of solidarity based on your experiences? Who would like to go first, Yusuf or Feliz?
Feliz. Okay.
Thanks. Thank you.
First of all, I think the most important, one of the most important thing is feeling about the solidarity. So I'm very happy to say that building a solidarity network, building the solidarity itself, helping each other to be included in solidarity is the one of most beautiful thing. I wrote it before that this feeling is like hugging your childhood friend. So I think this is a progressive feeling because experiences, of course, make you stronger, but feeling the process make you feel is an important thing. So when we came to experiences, I said that before, the experiences make you stronger, live in life and struggle against difficulties. So we, in my opinion, we today are living in a life of relations based on competition, loneliness, and in interest of selfishness. Yeah. Okay. Everything is here to satisfy the individual's the great ego. We are ready to see ourselves unique, like a unique one, and we are ready to look ourselves from a giant mirror. But mutual aid and solidarity teaches you another thing, another way of living. First, we learned that we are quite similar, all of us, all people of Turkey, all people of the world, our motherland we are quite similar of each other. Now, I and my comrades, I mean, we are trying to, get solidarity stronger. How can I say? We imagine another world, as I mentioned before. We imagine a society which everyone supports each other, with with respect to their profession, their how can I say, their issues, with respect to their issues. So we imagine solidarity as a living of life and struggling together. But now where we are after the international normalization in about pandemic, we weren't able to continue to grow the networks. It was harder. Yeah, they stand again, they stay there, but not active as before, and they started to begin dumping off, but we are trying to make them leave again. Because I think the shock wave passed away, so pandemic now isn't the main issue of the poor and the workers in here. Belize mentioned before, economic crisis destroyed the chance to stay home and end the pandemic. It forced all of us to work more to just survive. Despite this, our network stays and stand again, but it's difficult. It's difficult to make them work as before. But I think the key is Solidarity Network stand again as a as a difficult time key when we need it. For example, I think last week, one of volunteers needed help to Grandma's hospital processes and wrote to the group. And one another volunteer solved the problem, and they helped each other, and they met each other, and they become friends. I think the solidarity networks, because of these actions, solidarity networks is continue to stand up. Our phone still is ringing, but rarely, not as before. But I think, the tools are waiting for favorable conditions. And Solidarity Network is a tool which helps the society to stand on its feet in the last shockwave, in the last pandemic. But solidarity itself, I think it is needed to be pushed to get deepened. So we just have a new collective consciousness reset after the pandemic. The works we did are the seeds for self-organization in every district. The best thing about the solidarity networks is the experiences of it. We were able to deepen the solidarity, for example, by organizing weekly meetings. If we're trying to give examples. Meetings was very important because, taking suggestions, I think it's the most important thing. Building working groups is very important. But now, we have a new question to solve. It's what Beliz mentioned before and I mentioned before. It's what we haven't started to solve yet. The economical crisis and the state oppression is getting harder and harder. So maybe the experiences we had from the last process will help, but I think not yet. We didn't find the solution yet. But at the beginning of building networks, there were hints to got our works easier. As an example, the online volunteering application helped a lot. Questions such as, what potentials or sources that people have, in which neighborhood they live, and what they can do with networks help to filter, the works. As another issue, distributing the especially main duties helped a lot. If you read the book, you will see in Ataşehir Networks experiences that they were they weren't able to mobilize themselves very fast, but when they distributed the duties, main duties such as social media management, such as making new images to spread it, or creating them, coordination of contacts, gathering the supplies, finding new place to store the supplies. When they distribute these main duties, they gain ability to act faster. And I think one of the most important lesson we should learn from the process is about learning. As Çekmeköy Solidarity Network mentioned in the book, they wrote in the book, I will try to, I'm trying to find it. I think, where was it? Yeah, I found. they mentioned the importance of learning from the process, and I think they are very right. They said in these sentences like that, in this process, we see how precious solidarity networks are and how fast people can organize. People feel better when they come and think together, learn together, decide collectively. We are in a learning process to act collectively in collaboration with each other, and our people can feel very significant actors. How fast our solidarity networks grow if people stand by not just giving charity, but act collectively. I think it is one of most important issue. Of course, I think the unstoppable flow of history will help us to, gather again the movement, and will help to provide the same moment and velocity, or maybe faster, to become a solidarity society. But history needs, I think history needs help from us, from the subjects, from activists, from revolutionaries. It is not just flow and flow. It needs helps. So I think we invented enough tools to build a heaven in this capitalist hell. But we should find out that no heroes can help us. We don't have any heroes which will help us. So we should unite and act together, because as Kadıköy Solidarity Network wrote in interview, capitalism cannot solve anything. Capitalism cannot solve anything. It kills and solidarity gives life. So we need to overthrow the capitalism and act together.
Can I?
Sure, please.
I would like to thank both Beliz and Yusuf for their contributions, and I think they did a great job at showing us the ways in which solidarity and charity differ from one another, especially the quote that Yusuf just shared about acting collectively. I think that horizontal and collective, like horizontal coming together and collective decision making, is key in terms of distinguishing from charity, and in which, charities, there's always this giver-taker hierarchical dynamic, with the givers having the agency to make decisions. So I'm going to use this intro to segue to my question. I know you spoke a little bit about in-group solidarity dynamic, solidarity network dynamics, but can we give a little more clear details about how decisions are made? To what degree are they collective? To what degree are they unanimous? To what degree are there majority voting? What, for example, in your experience, you said you were in the Beşiktaş one, right, Yusuf? And Beliz,
Yeah.
you were in the Beşiktaş one too, or Boğaziçi one? Yeah. So, how are decisions made on a daily basis? What ideas are scrapped? What ideas are pushed?
Perfect question. Thank you so much, Emre.
Okay. Actually, at the beginning of building them, as I said, we were a few people, so we just gathered around and began to work to especially grow our number, and we began with just work. We didn't discuss a lot, and after we grew our number, we organize meetings, online meetings, and anyone could, could come and discuss and offer or accept. So we made it weekly, and we didn't go back from this decision. So it was very open. Anyone could include it. But later, some of volunteers didn't want to include weekly meetings. So how can I say, the expansion stopped, especially about discussions, and got smaller again, but not because of the organization, because of the wave, the reality of movement, and not because of any manipulation or blocking. It was, I think, the how a movement act. I don't know why, but it is what it is. But for example, Beşiktaş isn't a big province, but it isn't a small too. So some neighborhoods which, how can I say, I want to give an example. Maybe there is a district like Abbasa Mahallesi, I don't know the English version.
Neighborhood.
Yeah, Abbasa neighborhood, and they are 6 volunteers there. So they gathered around for a discussion, a local discussion, and they act how they want. Or another neighborhood, same as it. But as the issues about whole Beşiktaş, we discussed on the weekly meetings about them. So there isn't any management committee in Solidarity Network. I think we need working groups, and we need to we need to divide some works from each other, but we didn't need to organize a management committee, and it was able to mobilize with that style.
Thank you. Thank you so much. And Belize, would you like to share a little more?
Well, to be honest, when I want to talk about was just Solidarity's decision-making process. Honestly, when we first started, it was a kind of a mess. Everyone was so excited, and like we had a group, and everyone entering was like, okay, let's occupy somewhere. And it was kind of funny seeing how people gain that consciousness of what we are capable of as a collective. I think we really lack this, even in neighborhood solidarities. We lack a consciousness of collective action. So we learn by the process, we learn by doing. And at first, people are either fearing they can't do enough, or aiming sky high. So when they can't achieve their goals, they have how can I say? They feel like they failed. Yeah. But the first week, I think we had meetings, that last Zoom meetings I'm talking about, 7 hours, and sometimes we get out of the protest, then had a meeting with people we protested with, then couldn't sleep at all and went to another protest. So the first weeks were a mayhem, but through the process we had some, we found a way of forming some kind of mechanism. We were very inatçı, stubborn on some main things, but other than that, we kind of experienced. We were very stubborn that everything was going to go through the collective. It won't be like, we didn't want things to be like, okay, let's vote, yes, no. We weren't okay with this. We said everything must be argued, and until not consensus, that would be impossible with a great mass, but we tried to at least get to the end of the argument, either agree to disagree or say that, okay, I'm okay with this idea. So that took some time. That took that's needed for some arguments to be done with. And honestly, every collective, I think, needs to have long discussions to have some settled ground, some basic consensus. But in Bolshevik resistance, it was fairly short because, well, we know what we didn't want. And I know I don't want this rector. Do I want another rector? No, I think I should rule. It went kind of like this. Students were saying, okay, we want to have a say in the university administration. So this is a big thing, but we eventually made it there. And we organized the decision-making in the rest of the process as this. By the way, I must say we have several student bodies, but all in solidarity at this moment. So we have an argument, and if we can't reach a consensus, it goes like this. We form a committee of people we trust, and they organize what needs to be organized, and they keep the process going. But we try to keep everything democratic, and we try to make sure everyone is comfortable, I mean, with what's going on. That can be troubling sometimes, considering the amount of government oppression and amount of mental traumas this can cause. But mainly we are, I think we have a nice position at the moment. Other than that, I wanna actually answer the previous question a bit about how can we deepen the solidarity. I think we are more inclined to standing solidarity and uniting when we face a crisis. But I think we really need a greater conscience, more developed conscience to say, okay, this is not just a crisis management tactic, but also how we should live, how we should decide things in general. Yusuf made a great point about saying this is a way of life. This should turn into a way of life, because it's very freeing and empowering, actually. What you can accomplish by yourself is nothing next to what you can accomplish with your collective, because a collective doesn't compress your free will or your individuality. It actually creates it because you are in the process of making. So I think discussing, arguing, and doing it with a collective really builds something in you. So I think here lays a great work to those who trust in solidarity, to organize and help unite solidarities, we need to see that this is not just a crisis management, but this is more advanced way of uniting the society, organizing the society. So we must see the opportunities and go there and bring our ideas. We must fight for our ideas until we can see the end of it. Yeah, that's, I think, what I'm going to say.
Thank you so much again for this, and I'm sincerely grateful for your participation. And I think we have 8 more minutes, if I'm not wrong. So maybe we can open the floor for questions. If anyone has any questions, comments, or anything to share, please do so. You're more than welcome. If you want to type your questions into the chat box, please do so.
Are you guys able to hear me?
Sure. Yes.
Awesome. So one thing that connected both in the text and in the conversations that we were having was how we were given back humanity in a way, or we felt like human beings again. And I felt that was such an interesting concept because there's this whole entire dialogue of people being excluded outside of what's considered society or what's considered humanity. And it feels like solidarity work is a way to reintroduce people back into that society or connect people again. So I find what you guys are doing is amazing, or like the monumental step on getting to that path.
Thank you so much, Alicia. Yes, that part was very touching, both during the interviewing process and also in the aftermath, like feeling human beings and struggling against alienation. And, yeah, would you like to share? Anyone else?
So I actually had a question directed towards kind of Belize. So you mentioned with dormitories being run by kind of religious groups versus the government or like public entities. So I was just kind of wondering what effect does that have on you guys in your experience? Because I was kind of thinking like being a college student, how that would affect you.
Great question. Thank you.
Well, I want to start by giving some numerical data. Right now, average student loan is about 600 Turkish liras, and average dormitory, average university, government-run dormitory is about 800 liras. So even that is a luxury at the moment. But the religious groups supported by the state have some dormitories. And I must point out at this point that before this, there was military government run or military government supported schools, which created kind of opposite, but also the same effect on students because they were forced to stay in somewhere they didn't want because it's free or really cheap relatively, but the problem is still the same. Students have to stay somewhere they don't want, and they have to live in their routine. I think it's been 8 years since dormitories in Turkey are forced to be arranged by sex, and right now LGBT plus students are already experiencing a great deal of oppression by state and society, and these kind of inclinations have a snowball effect on this because you already have a journey on exploring yourself and your personnel, okay, I can't explain this part well, so I'm gonna just skip it, but the religious groups the dormitories run by religious groups tend to be an ideological way of burada tam hangi kelimeyi kullanacağım?
Söyle, Türkçesini söyle.
Yani aslında bu grupların ideolojik olarak örgütlendiği yerler.
To organize them ideologically, to sort of convert
Yeah.
them, right? To
Yeah,
recruit them.
Convert is, I think, good. It has nice connotations in this context. It's really somewhere to convert students. So there's a great deal of oppression, and really, if you're a student in Turkey, unless you're rich by the parents, you have to stay somewhere, either very far from your school and out of your price range. I have one example. There's a dormitory in Istanbul, one of the most developed cities in Turkey, that has had 8 stabbings in 1 year, because the road walking to it, it's really out of the city. It has just one way to get there, and it has no lighting, and it's in kind of a ghetto, and it's still run same. They haven't had any changes there, and students are still living there. Some dormitories have bugs come out of the food, and students still have to go there. The economic crisis really pushes you into whatever you can find. And the religious dormitories are just one aspect of it, but it really has a destructive effect on the students.
Thank you. Yeah, no, I think it's just like very eye-opening being in a similar stage in life, but completely different experiences and circumstances. So thank you for sharing.
I think.
So I think we only have, a minute, and I know students have to go to other classes and things like that. And so as we do a kind of collective thank you, I think we could also, if everyone wants to think of more questions, this is just the beginning of a conversation, whether friends from Turkey come back as we continue conversations with people from around the world, and from Turkey, you're both, Youssef, Belize, you're welcome to come to all of the discussions we're going to be having over the course of the semester, and continuing this dialogue. So seeing this as the beginning of a process of conversation rather than like a finality. But thank you so much. It was really inspiring. And thank you, Shema, for coordinating it.
Thank you so much. It was very good to see you.
Thank you so much for inviting us. It's a really nice forum and way of expressing ourselves.
Fabulous. Thank you. Well, join us again, bring other people, and everyone else, I'll see you Thursday. Hey, Nancy and Emre.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.